Hear you. Can you hear me?
I see your lips move, but hang on a second. It's on my end, isn't it? Here we go. Let's try this again. Can you hear me, Gina?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Very, very nice sound, as a matter of fact. Welcome to our second Zoom room. I'm glad you're able to join me again. And we'll get started right away. It's 4:15. We'll start right on time.
Okay.
And maybe someone else will join us in a little bit, but if not, we're going to go through. I'm going to, as I mentioned a little bit last week, focus, rather than be so broad, focus on something that I think is probably most pertinent, most important to you and the other students as well in the course room that you can actually sink your teeth into right now. So, what do you think so far after your first week in online learning at CC?
I survived.
You survived.
I survived. I think I shouldn't say I think. I know I have a tendency to really overthink things. And I was what's what I'm looking for? Like I was trying really hard to be perfect in my responses and things that I was submitting, and I would go back and I would reread and rewrite, and finally I just got to the point I was like, you know what, just hit save, just go, just click, just right. And so I feel a little more comfortable this week, a little more confident this week, and so we'll see. I'm just trying to get my schedule and when to best work,
Sure. Well, one of the good things about online learning is that you can do it anytime. You can check on it, go and everything like that. And one of the bad things about online learning is you can check it anytime. I remember the first time I taught an online class. Now, I had taken online classes. The first time I taught an online class, I mean, I probably worked 60 hours in that one class just because, there's no limit. There's, the student would say something and, it would allude to something that I knew a little bit more about than they did. And I thought maybe they were interested in it. So I'd go on and on and on, writing, pages about, whatever it might have been. It was a class and human relations and whether it was leadership or conflict resolution. I'd go on. I'd say, I can really help with this. I know all this stuff, and I realized that wow, I put a lot of work, which is I don't necessarily mind. I think people benefited, but you can't live like that. You can't have a family and do other things because that was just one class I was teaching out of all the other things that I did. So anyway, so I would suggest that. While you can go back and look at things if you really feel the need to, I would try, like you mentioned, the schedule. I would also, have a stop to that schedule. I'm going to work on this for, whatever it might be, 2 hours on Monday or, whatever you decide you're going to need to do and get things in on time and then let it go. And if there's a problem, stay engaged enough to know as you go forward if that you'll see the response from your professor or one of the classmates and you'll be able to rectify that. Don't, it's not going to be something if you make a mistake or don't get something done that it's that you've fallen off a cliff into something.
I know when you graded the first discussion from week 1 and I didn't comment or reply to any of the other students, their responses, and I remember reading something about that being part of the grading criteria, but I couldn't remember. And so when I saw, I wasn't, really upset, but I was really disappointed. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I did it for the others. So better late than never. So I jumped on there real quick and did replied to the second discussion and before you had graded it. Yeah. And then, after submitting my response, to the discussions or things like that, like I oftentimes think, I totally botched that and I don't think I understood the assignment correctly. And then I would get affirmation from you that I did do what I was supposed to do. And then it was just this huge sense of relief. Maybe I do know what I'm talking about, or maybe I do understand what I'm reading, or, and what's really helpful to me is that I can apply so much of this to my kids because I'm living in it right now. I mean, as I was watching, I'm working on the first apply and the social and emotional development, watching those videos, as a mother leaves the room and the infant starts crying. That was me this morning taking my youngest to school. I mean, she is clinging to me like a bear cub and does not want me to leave. And so, I'm like, it's not going to last forever. It's just a stage. It's just a part of it. So I'm sorry, I'm probably going off on a whole tangent, but
no, not at all. On the contrary. Well, no, I know you're not going off on a tangent. You're exactly right. And one of the great things about distance learning, but more importantly, one of the great things about adult learning, and a lot of the distance learning that I've done anyway, is with adult learners. And most of what I do at the college level is with adult learners, folks such as yourself who, was in college at one point and then started a family, started a business, and you get, you've had your kids, and you get to be to a point where, like, oh gosh, I wish I'd have finished that up just because I want to have the accomplishment, or I want to go to get an MBA, or whatever the case is. So it's adult students. So that's one of the great things that we actually can apply what we learn, and we can also talk about how it has been applied in our lives, which really brings the learning alive. And I've probably mentioned that at least a couple, 3 times in the post. You may have seen it, and others, or yours, I don't recall which ones I did, because I always talk about that whenever someone does bring up something that integrating theory and application. I point that out because that's where the real learning actually takes place. The theory is important. I don't mean to dismiss it, but theory on itself really isn't that helpful. But when you have some life experience and yourself with a family, with raising kids, and with the different things you've already gone through, like you said, being able to understand this and apply, and hey, there's a name for that kind of thing. Like, oh, that's attachment. I didn't realize that. That this is going on, and people actually have done research on this and written great things about this, and I can learn to understand this and make my life better because of this. So that's pretty cool. So that's exactly right. I do want to talk about the social and emotional development, and specifically attachment with the babies, the infants, the newborns, and then going forward. So you've probably read a little bit about it already, and looked at it. So I'm just going to click a couple of slides here and just talk about it. It is the importance of it for my way, and again, this is something I'm very passionate about, and I talked about it last week as well. A healthy attachment is really, it's like I said, it's something that you can't say too much about. There's a window of opportunity when children are, infants, just born, newborns, through about 2 years, that where you build those emotional bonds, that it's really hard if they're not done effectively, let's say. It's really hard to compensate for that or make amends for that, or to contend with that as kids get older. I did mention, I'm sure I mentioned last week about the orphans in Eastern Europe who were adopted by American parents who had this thing called reactive attachment disorder. It's where they really didn't have any remorse. They didn't really have any understanding that the other people were impacted by what they did. They in essence, they lacked empathy. So they would think nothing of stealing from someone or hurting someone. They would know that it wasn't okay. So they would be very good at, for instance, just taking something off of your desk, and you'd say, well, why did you take? Oh, I didn't take that. And you would think, did I imagine that? Or did that child or that teenager just take my wallet from my desk there? I had it sitting there. I was going to, purchase something or whatever have you. Oh no, I didn't. I haven't seen your wallet. I didn't see it. And you're like, wow. I mean, that's the extreme example. Now, in the past few years, we have identified some therapies and some things that do help a little bit, but it's a tough road. So so what do we do when they're young? We the slides here talk about well, I'm not even up there yet. So right now the slide's talking about what it actually is, okay? What attachment is and how to cultivate it is there. So and these are things that our grandparents told our parents, and probably their grandparents told them. They didn't necessarily know the research behind it, but the importance of having that tactile contact, the importance of having eye contact, the importance of massages with lotion and oil, to get the circulation going and really build those relationships and those bonds, to, in essence, carry them, hold them, love them, kiss on them. But also the other thing is to put them down sometimes. They have to learn that, they're not attached, use the term right there. And they have to learn that, if mommy goes away, it doesn't mean that mommy's, not coming back. Now, developmentally, it's pretty much agreed upon that up to a certain age, and I'm not going to say what age it is. I think it might be 6 or 8 months, when the child sees the mom or the dad or whoever, and then doesn't see them. In that child's mind, developmentally, that person no longer exists.
Mm-hmm.
So now they they do learn, but so it's kind of a thing. Like if you think, okay, now a little older, mommy's left the room, I don't see her, I'll never see her again. She doesn't, it's not even I won't see her again. It's like she doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to sort of cultivate that and let them know and assure them that, yeah, if mommy leaves, mommy will be back. And
I guess that's where the whole like controversy or what have you comes into play with the Ferber method. And cry it out and things like that. Like there's just so many people that are just so against it, and then some people that are very pro cry it out. But I guess it makes sense. Like to them, you leave the room at night and you no longer, to them, that like you're never coming back. Like that's it. Like that was and then when you don't tend to their needs because they're in there crying, and you just let them keep crying, it develops a different attachment, maybe not as a secure attachment.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you're right on the mark. I'm glad you brought that up. The sort of the tricky part to it, there's probably a lot of tricky parts to it. Babies are born with their own unique temperament anyway. Some are, some are easier to do themselves, and some are colicky. Some are, it is what it is. So, and you don't really know. Like there's no sort of label on them. Okay, this one needs you.
Yeah, you don't get to pick and choose.
This will be okay. So that's the art of it. And parenting is not an exact science, obviously.
No.
So what I talk about in my classes, or if young parents come to me, for some advice or counseling, if you will, we think of baby steps. We don't think of leaving them all night. And the good news is when babies are newborns, they have to eat about every 2 hours. So they're never left alone sort of all night, if you will. So going away for that short time, when they're young, like sort of really, and I hesitate to say this sometimes, but kind of what comes natural when you're around. Hold on. I said I'm not going to take that. Around family, and you let grandma or Aunt Martha or Uncle Bill hold the child, and let him get used to other people while mommy's away, or not necessarily away, but like across the room, if you will. So he or she gets the idea that, yeah, I'm okay, I am secure, I'm not abandoned, and mommy must trust this person because mommy left me here, and mommy's coming back. Mommy would not have given me over to Uncle Joe if Uncle Joe was going to do me some harm. And of course, I can even think the first, well, not the first time, but when my son was small, and my cousin, who I know very, very well, and I'd seen him a couple of times, came to sort of put her hands out to hold me. He clinged onto my neck. It was kind of a good feeling as a dad.
Of course.
But yeah, but they have to, if you're like, oh, no, if I had sort of taken that child, just to use this example, and say, okay, well, if you don't feel good, then I'm going to hang on to you. That's kind of the opposite of what we want. Presuming that it's not a stranger that we're hanging
right.
over to.
Yeah.
So it is something that you sort of cultivate, and you get to know, and there's trial and error, and there is some crying that goes on sometimes. But I mean, the other thing the baby, and this goes right back to the love and logic that I mentioned last week. Babies have to learn to self-soothe. If you always go rescue them and they never learn that or really get good at self-soothing, we're really not helping them, because there are times in our lives, as we know, that we have to self-soothe.
Yes.
If you don't know that, well, bless your heart, because I'm pretty sure you do.
Yeah, we definitely practice cried out, at our house with, I call it a more gentle cried out. I mean, we didn't just let them lay in their crib for, an hour on end screaming. With our son, we had to set a cap with it. We were like, okay, 15 minutes is what we're going to do. And my husband was like, go in the bedroom, shut the door, and I'll handle that. And by the night, he was going to sleep all on his own. And so now, when they wake up, or when they're babies, when they would wake up, we would kind of wait a few minutes before just running in there and, seeing what was the matter. But because sometimes they just wake up kind of fuss, because that's how they can't talk or communicate, and they just go right back to sleep.
Right.
So that's kind of, we're in that with our 3-year-old right now. She's waking up and she doesn't want to stay in her bed. She wants to come in our bed. Mm-hmm. And if I let her, she's going to do that every single night. So right. We're working through that, like keeping her in her bed. And so every day is a new trial, right. A new something.
Not easy, and again, no sort of science to do that. But I'll tell you, I have worked with parents who caved in with their 2 or 3-year-old child, and they come in when the kid's 9 or 10, and it's happened like every night. And I mean, it'll ruin your marriage, of course. And so it's important, and they'll be fine, and I think I've mentioned, or you could have seen in my bio, I love working with adult students, but I also work with little children here, right where I'm at right now. I'm in my office at the elementary school. I did some training, but I work a lot with kids, and we have something you're familiar with. We have at the start of our school year, and we have some parents come in who the kids are very clingy to them, and they're crying. I mean, they'll dig their nails in, and the parents, they hang around, and we tell them before, as long as you hang around, that you're sending the message to your child that I don't really trust the people here. That's
at our school, they call it drop and go. Just drop and go.
Right, exactly, yeah, and there's all kinds of things, and we have like a boohoo breakfast for the first day of school for the parents, kindergarten parents.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so you guys.
Which I'm fine.
Yeah, leave the kids.
But I actually.
Go ahead.
Why is my internet connection bad?
Yeah.
I think my internet connection isn't very good.
I can hear you.
Are you on something? Oh. Okay. My husband's working next to me. We're working from home today in our home office, and he's syncing our Dropbox, and so it's using up our our internet. But I had to talk to the director this morning at school, because I said, I'm all about drop and go, but I need the teacher to just come and take Stevie Ray from me. Like I the longer I stand there and hold her, the harder this is going to be. I just need her to come up, reassure her she's fine, give her hugs and kisses, just take her out of my arms, because I know in 2 minutes she's going to be fine.
Exactly.
And it's just causes more distress the longer she just stands there and stares at me like mom's holding a screaming child. And so hopefully tomorrow morning, because it's not her usual teacher that's there when I drop her off. So she doesn't come until 9:30, and I drop them off around 8:30. So it's just someone filling in for that first hour. And so she doesn't have a strong attachment to her as she does her all day long teacher. And I found out yesterday she is extremely attached to and keeps a close eye on her, and always has her in sight. So, but yeah.
Well, you make a good point. I want to emphasize. You make a good point. The longer you stand there, the more distress you're causing for your child. That's important to recognize. Now, of course, make sure the people you drop them off with, are, decent people. I think if you're at a school, you're probably in pretty good shape. Public schools, there's fingerprints and there's background checks. Private schools, I'm not sure they don't all do the same thing necessarily. But yeah, you're good to go, and then you drop them off, and it might be hard for the first couple of days, but you mentioned something that's you probably were, whether you were, I don't know of it or not, but there's a song that says it won't always be this way. It's a country song. I'm not sure if you're a country music fan. I've heard it. But yeah, it talks about a dad dropping off. I think it's a dad dropping off his little girl for school, and the teacher says it won't always be this way. And then it goes on. The song goes on. High school, what have you. So anyway, good points, every one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this next slide, talks about the separation, situation method, where I alluded to that earlier, where you do a series of separations and reunions, and that's they're talking about the research here, but that is a good way to help kids build a healthy attachment. Then I like here, I do pretty much like the slide here that talks about what secure attachment looks like. And right, it says most infants in the U.S. Unfortunately I've seen the other side of it. But this is what it looks like. A child will mildly protest a mother's departure. So wait a sec. Where are you going there? Whoa, hang on. Yeah, maybe I'll be okay. Maybe, and then when mom comes back in, they're gonna say, "Hey, mommy's here," and they'll want to, lift their arms up and get a hug, and want some interaction when mom comes back. And when mom wants to comfort them, if they are upset or what have you, then they're certainly ready to accept that comfort. They're happier, more sociable, and more cooperative with caregivers also. So that's what a secure attachment looks like. Also, they get along better with peers as they grow older, and they're just better adjusted. It's just a good attachment. That's what you hope for. And of course, there are varying degrees of it. This is the video that you, and then this also gets into, the problems, and you can see these in society, maybe with some of your people in your town, or when you go to the grocery store or the department store, anywhere there's kids, maybe around a park, or certainly if you go on field trips with your kids, for their schools, but the avoidant. Okay, so this is kind of the pattern where they don't really have a real good connection. The infant is not really distressed when mom leaves because there isn't a connection. So what's the big deal? You're here, you're not here. It doesn't really mean a lot to me. They'll play alone, and they don't. When mom comes back in, it's not like weepy, mommy's here. No, they've learned that it's all on them. Okay, they have to rely on themselves and themselves only.
That hurts my heart.
I know. And then there's the resistant. Okay, this is where they're really emotional. They show tremendous distress when moms leave. And this kind of gets into some borderline, down the road personality disorders, which is, sort of the advanced part of the class. I'm not going to get into too much, but these kids will either be very clingy to mom, or they'll be like, I don't want any part of you. Think of this, what this looks like for an infant, and then fast forward that to what it looks like for a teenager who has to have their parents' attention when it's convenient for them, and then when it's not, they just simply, I hate you. I don't want anything to do with you. And we've all seen, teenagers, at least a little bit like that. And even, think about the extreme, where it really just gets really to become a very dysfunctional home. And then the what they call the disorganized or disoriented, babies just don't seem to know what's going on. This is speaking of babies here. They don't, they just trying to figure the world out. It doesn't make any sense to them. So this might be one of your classmates maybe having trouble. Let me see. No. So there are different.
So,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Gina.
So looking at the attachment. So, hear me?
Break it up. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah. That's terrible. We live in the country, so that's really bad. But the implant attachment showing fear, distress, you still can't hear me? That's okay. It's okay.
Put it in the put it in the comment box. You know how to do that?
Oh, like chat?
Yeah, the chat box. Yep.
There we go. Okay. So the ambivalent attachment shows
Okay, ambivalent attachment. If my daughter cries when I pick her up from school, showing emotion when I return, is that well, okay.
almost like it's, yeah.
So how is she crying? Is it a tantrum? Is it she's happy, or she's
No, it's emotional.
like won't cry that I'm back, which will be 2 in November.
She gets overwhelmed with emotion. And she's just like so happy that she can't control it, and she just cries, and it's just for a few minutes, and then it's okay.
I can hear you real well now. Okay, so the question that I have is this: how is she when you drop her off in the morning? Is she the one that it's okay?
Oh gosh.
Does she cling in
No,
them?
yes. She, as soon as I open the door to her classroom, is there still a good connection?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
I think that we lost. Okay. Like when I open the door to her classroom, she immediately starts telling me, no, mommy, no, mommy.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's screaming and reaching for her brother who's in a different classroom.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, she's so adapt. Like I can't put her down, anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I need the teacher to just come in and
Right.
take her.
And you're right. So yeah,
But
right.
I just didn't know that.
Right. No, and you're right. I would have the teacher, take her, and my guess is she's probably okay. Pretty soon after you're gone, just like she's pretty okay. When you pick her up, she cries hard, but it doesn't last long. I wonder if it. Do you drop your son off to a classroom as well?
My son and my other daughter,
I don't.
my 4-year-old and 3-year-old, they go straight to their.
Right. I don't know if it might not be a good idea to drop, if it's possible, I don't even know if it's logistically possible, to drop the older ones off first so she can say goodbye to them and watch them go. See that model.
That's what we do. I drop her off last.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we take the 3-year-old first because her classroom is, because it's all in the same corridor, their classrooms. It's a preschool, so it's not like a full-on elementary school or anything. Right. And so Braley's class is right here. It is completely opposite Stevie Ray's class. So if their door opens and they can see each other. And then they see each other like on Wednesdays, they go to chapel and stuff like that. So we take Braley first, then Easton, and then Stevie Ray's last. Because I know she's going to be my most challenging.
Right. Well, and you're doing it right. I don't think there's anything to be like extremely concerned about, but yeah, it's you want to work on that. It's not the attachment that you're hoping for right now, but it sounds like have the teacher take her, and then you scat, and you're out of there, and then when you come back, just reassure her. I would also do some of the maybe on the weekends or other times where the time that you leave her alone is a little bit shorter, and you've probably done some of those things. And I would do that, and maybe even work out with the teacher. Again, this isn't anything I put some kind of plan in for. I don't think that's the case at all. But where you come back, and this is a little bit dicey. It's a possibility to look at where after you drop her off at school, you come back half hour for like 5 minutes. You might be opening a can of worms there. So I would talk to the teacher and get their input about that as well. So so that your 2-year-old will see that you come back and you leave again, which again that might backfire, but something to consider. Yeah. So is it the
attachment? She doesn't. She does.
Go ahead.
Hold on, my phone ringing. So she doesn't act that way when we're at church. So on Sunday, when we take her to her classroom at church, she kind of fusses as she walks in, but it's literally for like 5 seconds. And then she walks right in and she's playing and happy. And the other two go to a different class. And then we attend our service and then we serve the next service. So she's in there for, I guess, an hour and a half maybe.
Right.
And then when we pick her up, she's just all smiles and happy. And so it's a completely different experience.
Well,
like taking her to school and then her to we call it church school.
Well, that's interesting. I think it is because she's probably in the church and Sunday school a lot less time than she's in her preschool. I'm guessing. So she's recognizes that. So she knows that's going to be a bit longer time. And your morning routine is probably different on Sunday morning than it is Monday through Friday. Might be a little bit later even. So she's got so that's actually very good news. Because listen, attachment is one thing, but I think it's great that she is going to the preschool at 2 years old, and she's going to be fine because you have a nice solid family, and this is going to benefit her very well. It's not like you just can't take her, and you have to work, or you just need someone, you just need to sort of warehouse her somewhere. That's not the case. So long term, it's going to benefit her very well in terms of socialization, academically, I'm quite sure. But it's not easy, for a 2-year-old to go to work every day. It's almost what she's doing. So
yes,
so
a lot of things.
right, yeah. So I mean, right, and then Saturday's probably a pretty easy day for you guys. So she's had a day off, if you will. So Sunday morning's not too bad. So I would keep doing what you're doing. Again, I think that is the kind of attachment that you're talking about. But is there anything to worry about? I don't think so. I don't think you think so either. Just something to continue to be aware.
It's not disoriented, so that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Don't
well, thank you for that. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No. No, it's fine. I don't mind that at all. And I think it's, again, that application thing. Don't be like the person, the people who take, when you take ab psych, everyone thinks they either have a disorder or know someone with one. It's not like that at all. So I think you're doing a great job, and I don't, again, nothing to worry about. But again, just being aware of this as a parent, as parents across the country, I kind of wish, we did do more of these kind of things and talk about more of these kind of things in our schools, K to 12. Of course, you'll hear me say this a million times, we don't spend nearly enough time talking about, civics and government in our public schools. A lot of time spent on, I'm not saying we shouldn't spend time on, math and science. We should, but I think, surprise, surprise coming from me, that I think we should spend more time on, family dynamics and family development. You look at society, and I think you pretty much would almost have to agree that we could, in a lot of cases at least, do a better job in our family lives, as a nation, if you will, as a citizenry.
Yeah.
And civics, people don't even understand how government works, and regardless of what your political leanings are, very few people would disagree that right now, we're not trying to find any kind of common ground. And that's what we need to do, and how to make that work, and how to negotiate, and how to persuade ethically, not manipulate, but how to persuade people and get them to hear your point of view as well as listen to theirs. Those are things that are sorely missing. So anyway, that's that. I'm not going to take any more time. Gina, this is, again, I'm grateful that you're able to log in with me. It makes it a lot more interesting and a lot better for everyone. We're going to go with a Bible verse of Genesis 1:1. We're going to start in the beginning. In the beginning, God created, just Genesis 1:1. Of course, you will get your points, Gina. I'll put your points in the grade book already. Anyone else who listens to you don't have to, by the way, I think you sent me a message. You don't have to send me that. It was fine. Don't ever hesitate if you have a question. Don't hesitate. That's what this is all about. But no, it's good. It was kind of, it was cute. So by no means do you hesitate. I'm happy to do that. That's what they pay me to do. So we'll go with that. Genesis 1:1. Anyone who tunes in, do that, and keep the faith. Don't worry about anything. I'll say a quick prayer if it's okay. Father in heaven, thanks so much for this time. It was great connecting with Gina. Mr. Renfro, her husband right there, and the family. Pray for them and the other members of the class as well, that you'll bless them in a special way. Also, I ask for prayers for myself, my family, and pray you'll guide our steps as we go forward, fulfilling your purpose for our life. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, Gina, thank you.
Thank you.
And I will.
Have a great rest of your day.
You do the same.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I think I'm losing him.
Yeah, it's.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.